Hello, I'm EN Rowland, and I'm introducing you to SDG 13, Climate Action. The main goal for this SDG is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. As a global community, we made the Paris Agreement in 2015, the same year when we agreed on all the SDGs. And the Paris Agreement aims to strengthen the global response to the threat of climate change by keeping a global temperature rise this century well below 2 degrees Celsius, above pre-industrial levels, while pursuing means to limit the increase even further to 1.5 degrees. In Europe, we have made the Green Deal. We have agreed upon the Green Deal. And that is the European Action Plan for implementing the Paris Agreement. It means to transform Europe to climate neutrality by 2050, boosting the efficient use of resources by moving to a clean, circular economy and restoring biodiversity and cutting pollution. The plan outlines investments needed and financing tools available. It explains how to ensure a just and inclusive transition. Along those lines, we also want to think about climate justice. We must acknowledge that climate change can have different social, economic, public health, and other adverse impacts on underprivileged populations. Advocates for climate justice are striving to have these inequities addressed head-on through long-term mitigation and adaptation strategies. Let's look at this model here of climate change in the future. You can see that if there were no climate policies, we might get very close up to even 5 degrees Celsius. And that would mean that life on this planet, the way we know it, would not be possible. Then if we look a little bit further down in the middle with the orange, we have the current policies in place that will take us to increase of 2.8 to 3.2 degrees Celsius. That's still way too much. And then the pledges and targets that we're currently working on would take us to an increase of 2.5 to 2.8 Celsius degrees. What we really need, however, is at the very minimum, a maximum of 2 degrees Celsius pathways. At least that's what our scientific data suggests. And really, we should only have 1.5 degrees Celsius at the most, because our natural system on the planet is very sensitive to temperature change, and it will upset the whole system and something else will emerge here on the planet, and we may not be able to survive here under those conditions. With climate change, it's really important that we all, so all individuals living and breathing today, know how they can contribute to mitigating climate change. And here's a link on this particular slide that takes you to a wonderful short summary of what all the tipping points are on the planet, that if any of those get activated, it will snowball into the others. And it allows you also then to think about, well, what can I individually do? You know, we're 7 billion people on this planet, and soon many more. And if all those people do a little bit, that would actually make a difference. So it's a wrong thinking to think that we can't, as individuals, we can't do anything. We can. And if we all do, we will make a difference. This SDG has 3 targets and 2 measures. And the report 2020 allows you to read in detail the status quo globally on contributing to SDG 13. And then the European statistics site allows you to learn about different aspects of this SDG and how it is working in your own country and then compared to other countries in Europe. In Austria, we can see that we're doing okay on all the targets except for our greenhouse gas emissions, and we need to reduce those drastically. The main issues, therefore, to solve in Austria are to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement, so to follow our Green Deal very closely, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, move really into make the energy transition and things like that. We also need to raise awareness in Austria of the CO2 footprint of products and services that come from Austria, including the supply chains from other countries, and thereby inspire social transformation. We know with climate change and climate action that it is really crucial that there is a social transformation and a transformation of the economy. Otherwise, we won't be able to have impact on this threat to humanity and other life on this planet. And we know that climate change is coming our way in many forms, and therefore another task for Austria is to protect people and infrastructure from climate-related risks and extreme events. So that means to design prevention measures to adapt to climate change. So what might organizations do? As always, we first think about what is the core purpose of this organization, who are the internal and external stakeholders, how does climate change impact this organization, and what are the challenges or costs emerging from this impact, and at the same time, what opportunities and benefits arise because of the need to change something here. And then to make sure that your design, the inward actions and the outward actions cohere and therefore move you in the same direction. So let's look at educational institutions. The task for educational institutions lies in role modeling, researching and teaching about the reality of climate change and the potential of climate action and how to achieve it, as well as raise awareness about its needs and process. An inward action, for example, could be to focus research on topics for finding new contributions to achieve the Paris Agreement. And an outward action could be together with other partners, so institutions or businesses, to raise awareness about climate change dynamics, mitigation, adaptation, and impact reduction. What could cities do? Cities, towns, and villages. Their task lies in creating policies and local regulations that motivate the community to contribute to climate action. An inward action could be to shut down further sealing of land, because that relates to the health of our soils and biodiversity. Instead, to fund the regeneration of land and future-fit renovation of old buildings. An outward action could be to learn together and exchange experiences with public service officials from other towns. So what are they doing and what can we learn from them? Organizations of all kinds, what can they do? The task for them lies in reducing proprietary emissions to net zero as fast as possible throughout the entire organization and to take responsibility for emissions created along their supply and value chains. An example for an inward action could be to reduce the carbon footprint of products and services along the supply and value chains by exploring local sourcing and transport optimization and such things. An outward action could be to collaborate with universities, governments, and other businesses to innovate solutions for decarbonization and adaptations to climate change challenges. The slide deck then takes you further into an activity where you can design potential contributions for an organization of your choice, and then also takes you through reflective thinking to double check your designs for viability towards systemic sustainability. Then you have a few reflection questions to ponder over and new resources, some more resources to think about climate action. Eventually, you'll get to the activity of the SDG journey, where we ask you to observe your own environment under the SDG 13 umbrella for a whole week to try to understand the Earth's climate system and how you personally impact it. This was it for SDG 13. Thank you very much. I'll see you in another SDG.